reads the speedometer right here, 25, so I have to bump it up. Stops a little too far too soon here, and then kind of just coast in, which isn't a problem as long as no one's behind me. Waits about 3 seconds once it finally stops, and then proceeds. I'm not doing anything with the accelerator at all. Plenty of room for that semi. So it slowed down for whatever reason right there, quite considerably. There's a truck far enough behind me that I'm not going to concern myself with this stop. But again, too far back, too long. But it wasn't bad. Now we basically made a tie, so with that car right there, it was a tie. I started to go and then he had already made it out there, so I gave it to him. And the car was smart enough to see it. So even though I pushed the accelerator, I just tapped it. It lurched forward just a bit, only to recognize that car, that Range Rover, had already committed. So it stopped and then proceeded through the intersection just fine. So it slowed just perfectly. It slowed down just fine on this. It didn't abruptly slow down. It just kind of casually came to a halt. Now we should get the right of way, but I'm going to give it a little acceleration to get out there. It was hesitant, and there was a truck approaching into the right of way way later than we should. In other words, we made it plenty of time, but it was just taking its time, so I just gave it a little acceleration to get us into the roundabout. So I increased the speed by 5 miles here. The speed limit's 35. I increased it to 40. That's how you know. wish it wouldn't have waited so long to get into this turning lane. You'll notice it turned after the solid line had already began. So that was a little late. I reported it. Just as soon as the green light came, it accelerates on out there just fine. Takes the first lane, even though it needs into the right-handed lane, so it goes ahead and gets over to the right-handed lane without issue. That was really good. Went into this lane just fine. So it got into this turning lane perfectly. It went ahead and moved to the right really good to avoid that pedestrian. It came around, seen the pedestrian, and veered to the right quite suddenly, but nothing drastic.